Thanks everyone for joining this morning. We just have an hour planned where we will talk about the listing alerts process in the MLS. And this process, of course, is how you can set up an automatic email of new listings that match your search criteria day after day, or even in real time as those listings are entered into the MLS system. And most recently, we've added the ability for you to schedule those listing alerts, those automatic emails, to go out just once a week for maybe those clients that aren't ready to get really serious about the market, but they are curious about what's going on. So we've made a lot of improvements to this process. It did used to be known as hot sheets. So if you're more familiar with that term, we're talking about the exact same MLS feature. If that's a new term to you, then just stick with listing alerts because that's what we call them these days. So same MLS feature with some improvements. And I'm really excited to talk with you all about that this morning. I do have some introductory items to go over. That's me in the middle, Molly Nielson. We are joined today by Melody Tobin, one of our other MLS trainers. And Jason Moquin is our third training team member. He also works for support, so you might know him in that capacity. But the three of us together offer lots of different types of training, so I hope you will seek those out. We have all of our trainings scheduled in our trainings and classes website, which you can find under the help section of the MLS. So when you're logged into the MLS, if you hover over help and you select trainings, you'll find CE classes like this one, CE classes in person, which we're happy to have started offering again recently, webinars on short MLS topics for 20 short minutes. We've got individual training sessions you can register for and more. So check out those options. Of course, help is also where you'll find the contact information for our support team. They truly are waiting for your phone calls, emails, and chats. So make sure you're reaching out to them as needed. And then, of course, we also have our support center under help. And the support center is where you will find articles and videos and other content you can review at your own pace about any MLS topic you can think of. So just be aware of those resources. Make sure you're visiting help. I know it takes a minute out of your day to reach out to support or to register for a training or webinar or to visit the support center, but it truly will make your use of the MLS more effective. So, and that of course is going to make you more effective at your business. So I highly recommend spending a little time with those resources. We also, of course, have MLS news where we let you know about the changes that have come to the MLS system or will be coming to the MLS system. So watch that closely so you can navigate the MLS as it changes and not have surprises and hiccups and things of that nature. We do have 5 residential partner products. When I say partner products, I mean tools included in your MLS subscription. I'll repeat that. These are already a part of your MLS subscription. Now, each of these companies, Showing Time, Remind, List Track, Cloud CMA, and Builders Update, offer different solutions for agents. And we've partnered with them to bring you one of their solutions. So for instance, Showing Time is known for a lot of different showing solutions, including a call center. We've partnered with them not to bring you the call center, but to bring you Showing Time for the MLS, which is a link on your listings or the listings of others, where buyers agents can request to show the listing right from the MLS system. ListTrack and BuildersUpdate.com are fully included. They don't have agent tools that are not included in the access you're getting through the MLS. Remind is included as the Remind starter plan, which in my humble opinion is all you need from Remind anyway. Everything else that you would get from a more like a higher level plan would be fluff, in my opinion. I think you get the best of Remind through the starter plan that's already provided. And then Cloud CMA has 1 or 2 items that you could purchase to make your Cloud CMA presentations even better, but you really don't need to spend your money. My point is this: we've handpicked these tools to be a part of your MLS subscription. So if you haven't used them or you're only using 1 or 2, you're not taking full advantage of your MLS access. So make sure you learn a little bit more about these, whether it's through webinars or contacting support or visiting the support center so you can start to use them. Earning CE credit. Oh boy, that's not a code word. I've messed up my PowerPoint here. This is the one I wanted. So earning CE credit today is pretty simple. You will want to be in attendance on camera. This is a requirement of the Division of Real Estate. My hands are pretty tied. I would love to give somebody credit that can't attend on camera, but I just simply cannot. So please make sure you're on camera for the duration of the class. We will also be giving 3 code words. I accidentally showed one on screen, and that isn't actually going to be one of your code words, but if you submitted it, I guess I would accept it. So I'll give you 3 code words aloud throughout the class, and you'll submit those at the end. Now, I do have a sign in I would like to share through the chat. So if you will add your name, license number, and email to this sign-in, that will help me to issue your CE credit. On the sign-in sheet that I've just sent through the chat, there is a link to the survey where you can submit the 3 code words. So we'll be given those throughout the class. Make sure you're on camera. It's pretty simple stuff. It's kind of a hassle, but we all do it together to satisfy the Division of Real Estate's requirements. So with that, why don't we move over to the MLS system so we can actually get to the topic at hand, which of course is listing alerts. Now, listing alerts are the process by which you can turn a search into an email of all the new listings that match your search criteria. Listing alerts will also send listings that match your search criteria that are not new if those listings have a price change or a status change. Those are the only listing changes that would trigger that listing to be sent through the listing alert if it is not a brand new listing. So we're talking brand new listings and listings that change in price or status, and that's it. So it truly is the best way to keep your clients up to date about what's being listed, especially in this market where it's very competitive for buyers, and buyers are really having to be agile and respond quickly when something comes available on the market. Now, if you did not start the listing alert with a search, which you cannot do, if we allowed you to create a listing alert without starting with a search, your client's email inbox would be flooded with information from all over the state in all price points and all property types with all number of bedrooms and so on. That would be overwhelming and it wouldn't be very effective. So you do start with a search. Search for the properties that might be of interest to your buyer. Now, you may actually choose to create a listing alert for yourself only, and I'll be showing you how you can set one of these up. It's a very similar process to setting something up for your client. If you're just interested in finding out what comes on the market in maybe a certain area, you could set up a listing alert for yourself. It's something that could go to your own email inbox, and you could follow pretty easily as things come available on the market. So there are some other ways to approach this process, but for the most part, most agents are creating a listing alert for a buyer who is looking to purchase property in the market. So any of the search pages could be your starting point for the listing alert. The only exception would be search pages that are not for listing information, like the agent in office search or the tax data search. The tax data search is searching for tax records rather than active MLS listings or listings in other statuses as well. So we will be focused, of course, on listing search pages, which are primarily broken down into property classes: residential, multi-unit, land, farm, commercial, and even residential lease. Now, within these property classes, you have several search pages to choose from. A full search page is the most complete search page for that property class. So residential full has the most options for searching that any MLS search page will have. That being said, you can create your own custom search. If you have created any of these, you will see a custom searches section on your search dropdown. You can create your own custom search that could have additional searching options that you would not find in residential full, for instance. We'll talk a little bit about creating your own custom searches. From your custom searches, you can create a listing alert. So you have a full search page, which is the most complete by default. A quick search page is for those more basic searches. Sometimes all the options in full are really just getting in your way. And so that's where the quick search page comes in. You also have MLS number and address. You can create a listing alert for a specific property. In fact, if you were searching for the address of a property in order to create a listing alert for that property, I'd probably recommend selecting every single status. And this would notify you as that particular property moves through statuses in the MLS system, whether it's currently active or you're simply watching for that property to eventually or potentially become active on the market. You could search by address and you could set up a search for every status to send you a listing alert. So keep that in mind. Drive time search is a search page only accessible for residential real estate at this point. However, it is entirely focused on helping you find listings based off of a client's preferred commute length. Let me show you how. If we open drive time, let's imagine I'm your client, okay? I'm tuning in from 230 West Town Ridge Parkway, the MLS office here in Sandy. And this is where I commute each and every day, unless I'm teaching early in the morning in person somewhere. So if I were your client, my preferred destination is the address of my office. And I like to arrive by about 8:30 in the morning. And I like my commute to be less than 10 minutes. There are 61 listings currently active in the MLS system that would get me, your client, to my typical destination within 10 minutes on a typical day. So, of course, there are going to be a lot of variation in these 61 matches. I would still likely enter some additional search criteria for that client, including maybe a price point, property type or style, number of beds and baths, and so on. But you've just created a search that is highly specific. This is not just a radius search around that person's preferred destination. In this case, my preferred destination of my office. It's not a simple radius. It is powered by, as you can see labeled here, powered by INRIX. This is data used in various applications throughout our lives to predict, how long it's going to take us to get to certain destinations based off of traffic and road conditions and so on. So it's a very specific search, and I highly recommend you use this in the future. Like our other listing search pages, you can turn this search into an automatic listing alert. Now, most of our search pages, as I've mentioned, are restricted to a particular property class. That is not the case for the cross-property search. The cross-property search is designed to give you one search page to search multiple or maybe even all of the property classes. So if you open cross-property search, the default is to search for residential and land at the same time, but you could choose to search for commercial and multi-unit at the same time. You can mix and match these any way you would like. And of course, you can select all property classes. Now you would simply add some additional criteria, maybe a price point, maybe a location. And like our other search pages, you can turn this search into a listing alert. Finally, we do have the new interactive parcel map. I would really encourage you to check out this new search. It's an entirely map-based, location-based search option. The one downside is that you cannot turn this search into a listing alert. So when you're doing a listing alert, stick with full, quick MLS number, address, drive time, or cross-property search. And of course, those search pages fall under various property classes, and you can turn a custom search into a listing alert. I'm going to open residential full. This is the search page most of our members are using most of the time. But whether you are creating a listing alert from residential full or from another search page, you will, of course, have a very similar experience to what you're about to see. I do want to demonstrate two tips here that could help you to have more robust listing alerts in the future. But first, why don't we have our first code word, which is vacation. Your first code word is vacation. If you're attending for CE credit, be sure to write this down. I did send a link in the chat to the sign-in page. We might have had somebody join us since then, so I'm going to send this to everyone again. So forgive me for sending that out more than once. But I did send a link in the chat. Please add your name to the sign-in, and there is a link within that sign-in page to take you to a form where you can submit your code words at the end of the class. So first code word is vacation. I don't know about you, but I need a vacation, especially with this weather and the smoke, preferably somewhere with a beach. All right, so let's continue forward. We have, let's see here. We are working with the residential full search page. We might just enter some basic starting search criteria. If you're looking for a buyer, you'll probably use active status, of course. You might also decide to include backup status. This is a listing that is under contract, but they have made the decision to go ahead and continue marketing that property in order to receive backup offers that could be in a backup position should something happen to the deal they are currently working on. I would argue backup is probably not as common as it once was, mainly because most listings are getting so many offers to begin with. It's pretty common to already have listings in backup position, but it's entirely possible that there may be some listings in backup status that could be appealing to your client. So just keep in mind what backup is and when you might want to use it for which clients. So I'm looking at active status properties. Perhaps I want to specify to the client. Okay, I just received notice of having trouble adding name and info to the spreadsheet. Has anyone else experienced a problem? I wonder if it's just mobile.
Usually you have to download it and then access it that way if it's not working. So don't just click on it. You have to actually download it and then go in and enter your information. In the past, that's what some people have had to do. Okay.
That's good to know. Connor, give the download a try. And if you have any trouble, feel free to send me your information to training@utahrealestate.com. I just sent that email address in the chat as well. Thanks for letting me know. I appreciate the heads up. Okay. So perhaps we're working with a client who is looking for a property asking between $450 and $5. And we'll just stick with Sandy City since that's where I'm located. We'll keep it easy for me. All right, so there are 11 matches. Now, this is not a perfect science, but I will say this. Your number of matches can be an indication of how frequently the client might hear from you through the listing alerts process. So I'll give you an example. We're dealing with 11 matches, which in my opinion is a pretty good position to be in. If we had 0 matches, that could be an indication that my listing alert search criteria is not going to return very many results very often. So if my client has the expectation that they will frequently hear from me about what's coming available on the market, I might need to broaden up my search a little bit. If my client is really particular and they know their perfect property isn't going to come on the MLS very often at all, maybe 0 matches wouldn't be a big deal in that situation, as long as my client's expectations are in line with what I'm experiencing. On the flip side, if you have 100 matches, that could be an indication the client's going to hear from you through the listing alert a lot. Again, for a buyer that's having to be a little more flexible with some of their specifics because of the market that we're dealing with, and they really just want a property, perhaps that's going to be perfectly okay with that buyer. If you've got somebody with some specific search criteria who's really asking you to do the heavy lifting for them of really getting into the details and finding the right listings, 100 matches might not be a fit for that client. So again, not a perfect science, but pay attention to your number of matches when creating a listing alert, because it can be an indication of how frequently that listing alert might go out and how often they might hear. Now, this is where you can create a custom search. On any of our search pages, if you were to select the create custom search option, this would take you to a page where on the left-hand side are all the search fields already included. In this case, these are all the fields included in the full search page. And on the right is everything you can add. Now, I'm a firm believer every MLS user should have at least one custom search page created. And that one custom search page should only have 7 search options or 10 search fields or 13 or 27, however many search fields you use the most when you're searching. Now, that's going to mean you have a search page designed with you in mind and the kinds of searches you tend to do. So you would remove all of the search fields from the left and probably remove the sections as well with delete separator mode. And then from here, you would just add those fields you like the most, whether it's some price fields, maybe some status. And this, again, will be a search page designed specifically with you in mind. You'll give it a name and you'll hit save. Any custom search pages you've created will appear under the custom searches section of your search dropdown. Now, for the listing alerts process, while you could create a listing alert from your specific custom search page, you may find you need a search option that is a little bit atypical. Maybe you've got a buyer with some really specific kinds of criteria. You may actually find you need to add a search field that is not already included in the full search page. So that might be the more common experience you might have in the listing alert process when it comes to needing a custom search. You might just need some additional searching options that you don't have in any of the default search pages. And you would also satisfy that, that need through creating a custom search. Now, the other example I want to give you, in addition to, of course, reminding you that you can use the map for your listing alerts. So get specific with location through the map tools. You can use location criteria like county, zip code, or city, but the best way to get more specific, of course, is through the use of the map. So make sure you're using the map for those clients that are really particular about location. The other advice I wanted to give you is the ability to search for keywords. Keywords, of course, are any word that could have been used by the listing agent to describe the property they've listed. It's a terrific way to find those particular buyer requests. Now, I'd like to give you a good example. So I'm going to broaden up my search just a little bit. We have roughly 400 matches. This will help me to demonstrate how important formatting is, which I'm about to show you. But let's go to the remarks section. This is located at the bottom of the search page. So I can scroll to it if I'm feeling ambitious, or I could just use the jump to tool. This is next to every section header in the full search page. Section header is marked with a green label, and then you can jump section to section using this jump to tool. So I've just jumped down to remarks. There is just one search field here, and that search field will allow me to search for keywords. So if I had a client who was specifically looking for a property that had upgrades, I might search the word upgrades in the public remarks. So I have 29 matches. If I open my search criteria, this is the 29 listings currently active in the MLS asking between 450 and 500,000. But I'm leaving out the word upgrade, and I'm leaving out upgraded, and I'm leaving out upgrading. So in order to make sure I'm bringing in the most possible matches, I need to take this down to the root word. And I'm actually going to take it one step further so I can bring in UPG, RAD, and anything that comes after that, including upgrading or, a space or a typo on the end. And I'm going to add an asterisk. The asterisk acts like a wild card. So I'm telling the system, look for UPG, RAD, and anything that comes after it. For upgrades, I had about 30 matches. With the asterisk, I have 50. So I significantly increased my results by using that asterisk. So the way you format your keywords will be really critical. But keep in mind that all the formatting tips can be found under this help bubble here. So pay close attention to that. It's something you'll want to reference, especially when using the remark search. If you haven't been using this, you're really missing out. It truly is one of the best ways to find certain features, especially if those features are not a required field in listing input, or maybe not even an existing field in listing input. In our example today of upgrades, there's no field in listing input for a listing agent to say, yes, this property's been upgraded. So we use the remarks to find that information. Like our other search options, we can turn this search into a listing alert. Let's go to our basic search criteria and let's start the listing alert process. So we'll go back to our Sandy City search. So here's my 11 matches. I can create a listing alert right here from the search page, as I've pointed out several times. I actually recommend viewing your results first. When you're creating a listing alert, rather than creating it from the search page, I actually recommend viewing your results first and creating the listing alert from this page. And here's why. There's a very specific reason for this. When you are creating a listing alert, you're creating an email that will automatically send the client new information. Well, folks, I've got 11 search results here. This listing's been on the market for 5 days, this one for 9, this one for 57, this one for 7, 29, 10, 15, 6, and so on. I don't have any brand new information here, but I have 11 good listings that my client might be interested in. So day one of the listing alert, I recommend also using send listings. Send listings is the same thing as the listing alert, but it's a one-time email. The listing alert is ongoing. So send listings is the ability to send any of my search results that I've selected. In this case, I've selected all 11. Maybe you only want to send that client one of these. Maybe you want to send a few. Maybe you want to send all. Send listings is a one-time email. This is only necessary on day one of the listing alert. So the day you create the listing alert, use send listings to send any existing inventory you might want the client to see. The listing alert is going to do that work for you every day from here on out, which is why we're setting it up. So day one, use send listings and create the listing alert, and then the listing alert will do that work for you. So I've opened create listing alert. I have my search criteria over here on the left as a reference. And from here, I'm just filling out the required fields, maybe even some fields that are not required if I would like to include some of that information. But of course, I will have to at least fill out the required fields, which are marked with the red dot. So this starts with naming the listing alert. This is just a reference for myself in order to identify and use this listing alert in the future, whether it's to make changes or turn it off after we find the perfect property for the client or what have you. Now, I actually like to recommend naming the listing alert based off of your search criteria. This just helps me to keep them straight. I know a lot of agents that like to use the name of their client to name their listing alert. You're already going to identify the name of the client in a future step and have access to that really easily. So I actually prefer to use the search criteria, especially because it's pretty common to actually create more than one listing alert for the same client, especially in this market where buyers are having to work, and buyers agents, of course, are having to work especially hard to find that property. Maybe you end up with one listing alert that is for exactly the kind of property they're hoping for, and a second listing alert that comes close. So they could be notified right away as soon as something came on the market that was, really the ideal property for them. And they would also be notified of anything that was similar. So just something to keep in mind. I like to use my search criteria as the name of my listing alert. By the way, the name of the listing alert will also be the subject of the listing alert email unless you create a subject below. Now, the email subject's not required, and I typically leave this blank. So this will also become your email subject. So just be careful. Don't name your listing alert something compromising, like listing alert for a really annoying client or something like that. You'll find yourself in a bad position. So just keep it professional. Keep in mind that it could be seen by the client, but if you create your own subject, it won't be. Now we reach send type. This is my least favorite step of the listing alert because it is confusing. I personally don't think most of our members really understand the difference between these three options and therefore tend to just go with the default. But I actually recommend in almost every case to use the middle send type option. So I'll start there and then I'm going to kind of get a little more specific with what I mean in terms of what the send types are. So I recommend the middle option. Here's why. The only person or people who will get the listing alert in their email inbox will be the person or people I send it directly to. So below I'm adding clients. Maybe I add one, maybe I add two. When I choose the middle option, the only people who will receive the listing alert in their email will be anchovy and fake client. Now, that is also true with the first option. The only people who will receive an email of the new listings from my listing alert will be anchovy and fake client. But anchovy and fake client will both have a record of the listing alert that I sent to them on their MLS profile. Now, their MLS profile could be connected to other people. They would have to connect that profile to someone else actively. So it may not be, but it could be. Typically, we're talking about a co-investor in this property. So maybe their spouses or business partners or best friends or whoever's investing in this property with them. If you choose this first option, that person could connect their profile to, for instance, anchovies, and they could see the listing alerts I'm sending to anchovy. They wouldn't get it in their email, but they would be able to see it on anchovy's profile. If I'm working with a co-agent, my co-agent could connect their profile to anchovies, and my co-agent could see what anchovy was receiving through the listing alert from me. Any other circumstance, at least that I can think of, that would just be a hindrance. So it's possible that anchovy purchased a property 7 years ago and worked with some other realtor that they connected with, and they maintained that MLS profile connection for these 7 years. They didn't remove that connection. So it's possible that agent from 7 years ago could see the record of my listing alert. It's unlikely, it's pretty buried, frankly, but it's possible. So unless you need the feature of somebody other than the recipient being able to see the listing alert, like a co-agent or the recipient's co-investor, I would just stick with the middle option. Now, the third option has nothing to do with who can see the listing alert the way the first two options do. And instead, it's about what the client sees. And this brings me to a good point to actually show you the client's view of a listing alert. And while I'm opening that, I've got it open in another browser here, which I forgot to close out from my listing alerts class yesterday. So I already had a bunch of tabs open. Let's get this open. While I'm opening this, why don't I give you your second code word, which is Apple. Your second code word is Apple, like the delicious red or green fruit or the company that makes iPhones, Apple. I know it's patronizing to give code words, guys. I hate it, but together we jump through the Division of Real Estate's requirements and their hoops. Okay, so I've got a listing alert going out as an example. This is the listing alert email. And then, of course, if the client wants to learn more, they can, there are several links in the email to view all the listings, but they could also view an individual listing if something catches their eye. When they view all the listings, you'll see each listing is on an individual thumbnail. They see your name and photo and contact information. If they were to click on a property, they would still see your name and photo and contact information. On an individual property, they can view where the property is located. They can estimate the mortgage. They can favorite the property. They can send you an email. They can scroll through the photos. They can learn more about the property and so on. This is what a typical listing alert looks like. By the way, this is also the view the client would receive if you were to send them an email through Send Listings. So Send Listings emails look just like this as well. Okay, very interactive. This also responds to the size of the screen they're looking at your email from. Most of us are checking our email from our phones, so are your clients, and they'll be able to see and work with this information very easily, regardless of the size of their device. So the only difference between this and the Realtor branded website, which is that third send type option, is literally one minor difference. And the difference is this. Let's open the Realtor branded website email. Same exact email. It looks the exact same. When they click here to view all listings, Everything is the same except the menu at the top. This is the only difference, the menu at the top. Now, this was created, I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago for a very specific purpose that I don't really believe is that necessary anymore. Correct me if I'm wrong or if you disagree, but I just really don't think most agents need this. If we look at the more typical listing alert, which now my device doesn't want to let me do. Okay. If we look at the more typical listing alert, you'll see there are utahrealestate.com website options across the top, including the ability to go and search for other listings that are for sale. 10 or 12 years ago, agents had the luxury of telling their clients, you know what, I'm going to do your searches for you. Don't worry about searching for properties online. That's no longer the case. So 10 or 12 years ago, it was important for us to create a feature that allowed an agent to use the listing alert, in those days called hot sheets, use the listing alert, but not redirect their client to a website where they could do their own searches. I really don't think that's the case these days. It would be very rare indeed to have a client that wasn't doing their own searches online. So it really, for nearly every agent I've spoken with in the 5 years I've been doing this, nobody was particularly interested in that feature. So if you need it, it's there. But honestly, I recommend the middle send type unless you specifically need one of the features available through the first or the third option. All right, let's move on to adding clients. I've added Anchovy, who was already in my MLS address book, which is why she was appearing in this list to be added in the first place. The same is true of fake client and all of these other fake clients I've added over the years. If you do not have the client in your MLS address book, you will need to add them. You can add them from the clients tab directly in the address book. You might have noticed me using this trick earlier, but in order not to lose the work I've already done, but to open another page in the MLS, I'm using New Tab. New Tab lets you do more than one thing in the MLS at the same time. Could be any number of things. It doesn't have to be listing alerts and address book tabs, but it could be any tab you could need. Now I can go to my address book, but I still have all the work I've completed on my listing alert on that first tab. I'm trying to clean up my tabs here and it's not going very well. Okay, here we are on the address book. These are the clients I have added. I can add a new client right here, but luckily for me, that option is a lot easier and a lot more accessible right here in the listing alerts process. All you need is the name of the client and their email. They will automatically be sent what we call the connection invitation. This is a simple email that explains to the client that you, the agent, are going to be sending them listings and do they accept. Most agents are business owners. That, of course, is not the model of every agency out there, but most agents are business owners. And as business owners, you know that it's best practice to have the permission of an email recipient if you're going to send them an automatic email. Okay, so this is getting that permission. This is how you establish that the client would in fact like to subscribe to your automatic email. Now, to see if the client has responded to your connection invitation, you can go to the address book, which one more time is under the clients tab at the very top. There's a connection column where any connected client will have a blue link going directly to their MLS profile. And a client that opted out will be labeled as no. This is pretty much only seen if the client didn't understand what they were receiving. So make sure you're having that conversation with them and going to send you an invitation. Go ahead and accept it and I can start sending you those listings. Or you found them the perfect property, they're moving in and they just happen to turn off the listing alert before you do. That's typically when you'll see a no. And then finally you have pending, which is a client that has not yet responded to your listing alert. If the client, if you add a client and send them the connection invitation today, when you create the listing alert, and they don't connect with you until Saturday, the listing alert is not going to go out until they connect. Once they do, the listing alert starts running. You don't have to make any changes on your end, okay? But do watch carefully as to whether or not they are connecting with you. In the meantime, you might end up using send listings, that one-time email we talked about. Send listings can be sent to any email address. They don't have to be in your address book. They don't have to be connected with you. You can send those listings all day, every day in those send listing emails because it's not automatic. So the listing alert is automatic. You need that connection established. Until that connection is established, send listings. There's no limitation there as far as how many times, number of listings, who they can go to, et cetera. The other thing I'll mention is if your client is having any trouble connecting, it's pretty uncommon, but maybe you have someone that's not particularly tech savvy, or maybe you have somebody that is getting 1,000 other emails a day. Get them on the phone with support. Have us call them. We'll do a 3-way call. We'd be happy to talk with your clients and make sure that connection is established and it's easy for them. So really, I'd be surprised if you had a client that struggled, but again, there might be those times and we'd be happy to talk with them. If you add more than one client to the same listing alert, they will not know the other person is receiving it. It's a blind copy. So just make sure you don't address one of them in your subject or message below. That would be a little bit awkward for all of you, but as long as you keep this generic, which I recommend doing anyway, the client will see this email over and over again. They won't know the other person's receiving it. Now we reach the schedule. And this is where we have made more improvements than just about any other MLS tool or section the entire time I have been with the MLS. We make improvements a lot. You've probably noticed in MLS news. So I'm happy to say that the schedule is very robust. You have a lot of different options to choose from. And some of the downsides that existed years ago are no longer an issue. So I'll go into some detail about this. I do want to mention, now that we're 45 minutes into class, please feel free to send any questions you have in the chat or even to just pipe up via your microphone. I'm pretty informal, you might have noticed, so feel free to just send any questions or comments you have, and I'd be happy to address those. Okay, the daily alert used to be the only schedule option for listing alerts back when they were called hot sheets. And you could have chosen multiple times a day, like an 8 o'clock email and a 2 o'clock email and a 6 o'clock email. But in the past, the listing alert was always searching. It was designed to search for 24 hours of information. So here's the thing. If a listing came on the market at 7 o'clock that was listed in Sandy asking between 4:50 and 5, your client would have received that listing in their email at 8 o'clock, but they also would have seen it at 2 o'clock and they also would have gotten an email about it at 6. That is no longer the case. I only bring up the way it used to work to make sure everybody's on the same page. That is no longer the case. You could choose every time of day and your client wouldn't receive any repeats. The listing alert will just be sending them new information. Here's the thing though, you don't have to choose every time of day. If you want the listing alert to go out really frequently, you can send it in real time with the Express alert. That's my very favorite option. The Express schedule will send new listings, or remember the 2 changes that will trigger a listing alert to go out for an existing listing would be a price change or status change. So your client will get a listing alert as soon as that listing hits the market, typically within 60 seconds. That's just, again, it kind of depends on how things are running and how many listing alerts are going at that particular time, but typically within 60 seconds, they will receive that information. Now, there is this confusing limit posted here, limited to 15. This has nothing to do with the number of listings your client will receive. Okay, this has nothing to do with the number of listings the client will receive. Instead, this is about the number of listing alerts you can create in your account and have actively running on the Express type. Let me show you an example. We're going to jump over to my saved listing alerts, which I can find under the clients tab, but I can also find these under the search tab. The link is in both places. It goes to the exact same section of the MLS. Here are my saved listing alerts. I have 14 of these actively running, set to the Express type. So I have 14 express listing alerts running right now from my account. I can only create one more. So today's listing alert, if I choose express, this is the last active listing alert I can have set to the express type. But if 23 listings come on the market today, asking between 450 and 5 in Sandy, my client will get 23 listings or 23 emails. So there's no limit to what your client can see. It's about how many listing alerts you can create as express listing alerts. Finally, we have the weekly alert. This is the latest addition to the schedule. This was requested a lot. And so I was really happy we could bring this to our membership. This is the ability to collect all the listing information that matches the search over the last week and send it once a week. So, excuse me. So this could be used in a number of ways. If I were in your shoes, I'm not an agent, but if I were, I would honestly use the weekly alert for anyone I had already worked with. Let's say you helped them sell and then purchase a different property, or you represented them as a first-time home buyer. Do a search for the sold status listings in their immediate neighborhood. Use the map, get really specific, do a search for the market activity in their area and set it up as a weekly alert. Once in a while, they probably won't get it every week. It'd be kind of an unusual neighborhood to have a sale every week. But every once in a while, they're going to get an update from you with your photo and your contact information, explaining to them what's going on essentially in their marketplace. So keep that in mind. That's why I would use it. But you can, of course, also use it for those clients that are really curious about the market, but they're kind of dragging their feet. They're not really sure it's the right time for them. Set up that weekly alert. Start letting them know what's going on and generate that information for them. Choose an expiration date. Your expiration date could be tomorrow. It could be August of 2045. There is no limit, but I recommend the expiration date that corresponds to your agreement with the client. If you've got a 3-month agreement in place, set up a 3-month listing alert. If you've got a 6-month, set up the 6-month. It does default to a year, but again, you can set this out to 2045. There isn't a limit on this. We just want to encourage you to think about how long you really want this running. Now, with send to, the latest improvements we have made to the listing alerts process are that you can now opt in to push notifications. So you can receive through the mobile app a push notification of the listing alerts the client is receiving, and the client can also receive push notifications if they would like to download the app and opt in. So you can email yourself on the listing alert as always. By the way, this is the best way to send a listing alert to just yourself. You would simply not select any clients above, and you would deselect this email selected clients option. This is now a listing alert that is just going to me. Something I'm just keeping an eye on for my own sake, or it's these are the particular market circumstances I'm trying to keep my eye on, or what have you. So that's how you can send it to just yourself. If you would like, you can at that point also opt into those push notifications. But honestly, copying yourself on the email, this is just one way to follow what the client is receiving. You do have some other options that don't include receiving an email or push notifications. Okay. If you've got a client that would like an option other than simply email, I would encourage them to download the app and opt into those push notifications. Finally, you can enter a subject and message if you would like. And then, of course, you will save this listing alert. All of your saved listing alerts will always be accessible under the listing alerts link, which one more time you'll find under the clients tab, and you can also find it under the search tab. Now, I'd like to wrap up by talking about some of your options for monitoring what's going out in your listing alerts. Okay, because again, as I mentioned, you don't have to opt into those emails in order to see what the client is receiving. You certainly can, but you don't have to. I also want to talk about how you can add and improve your branding information on your listing alerts. And I also want to demonstrate how you could edit and manage your existing listing alerts. Let me give you your final code word, which is spider, the creepy 8-legged creature, the spider. Not a fan of those guys. Spider, that's your final code word. Remember the spreadsheet where you can enter your name and email. If you would do that for me, that will help me with banking credits. And then that spreadsheet also has the link to take you to submit your code words. But I also shared that email address in the comments, and you could feel free to email code words to training@utahrealestate.com if you have any trouble. Spider is the final code word. Okay, so if we go to the front porch, this is a seldom used but can be very helpful feature of the MLS. It's truly just monitoring activity between yourself and your clients. Okay, so if we go to the clients tab and we open front porch, you'll see there are several tabs across the top. So we see my name here, of course, which means I'm looking at my front porch. The front porch tab is like a collection of recent activity of, comments or interactions between you and your clients inside utahrealestate.com. Then you can see your favorites. You can see your connections, which would be your connected clients, or even those folks you've tried to connect to. This is a great place to resend a connection invitation. And of course, you can see your property list. This is every listing alert email you've sent from your account in the last year. And it's also including any send listings emails. So remember, the only difference is send listings is a one-time email, listing alerts is an automatic and ongoing email. So under the clients tab within front porch, you have a complete set of your property lists. You can see who it went to. You can even see whether or not they've viewed it, which I really like. You can see the count, which is, of course, the number of listings they received in that email. And to view the listings they actually received, you would just click the search icon. Even better, this list, although it's reduced, I think it's just the last 10 emails you've sent, this list is accessible on the mobile app. Here's why I love it so much. You get a call from your client and they say, my dream home just got listed. I love what you just sent to me. If we don't see it yesterday, it's going to be gone. Someone's going to buy my dream home. It's an automatic email. You don't know what listing they're talking about. You can tell them that, although I don't recommend it. You can dig through your thousands of daily emails to try to find the email you've copied yourself on. Or you can open the app. You can select property lists from the menu, and you're automatically looking at the listings the client just received. Oh, it's the one on Main Street. Looks like they're using showing time. When did you want to see it? It's just a much more engaging conversation at that point. The other thing you can do with Front Porch is view your client's profile. And this is what I was talking about when I cautioned you about using that first send type, the default send type. If you go to clients, Front Porch, connections, and then click on the name of a client, and then click on property lists, you can see the listing alerts they're receiving. Now, they will only be the listing alerts you have sent them, unless there's some other agent that's sending them a listing alert with this client and connections send type selected. Okay. Now, again, the likelihood that some unconnected, or excuse me, I shouldn't have used the term connected, because the only people who can see the client profile will be those that are connected with them. But the likelihood that an agent that is not involved in the deal you're working on with your client is going to dig through those steps and look at, old connections, property lists is really unlikely. I just don't like that they could. So keep that in mind. When you are looking at the client's name, which one more time, the steps are clients, Front Porch, connections, and then clicking on the name of the client. Once you're seeing the name of the client here rather than your own name, now these tabs are your favorite properties. I'm sorry, their favorite properties. It's a little early, can you tell? Their property lists and their connections. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, to manage your listing alerts, you will go to the listing alerts link where you can turn a listing alert off. You can turn it back on. You can delete a listing alert. You can edit a listing alert. You can sort this list by clicking on column headers, like sorting by name, sorting by created, which is my favorite. It kind of keeps my most recent work at the top. And then you can, of course, edit a listing alert. This is where you could make changes like send type, who it's going to, when it's scheduled to go out, whether or not you're copying yourself on it. More importantly, you can change your search criteria. You're going to have this experience where a client calls you and says, oh, we're so excited. We love working with you. We love what you've been sending us. We've been talking about it, and I don't think we can make 2 bedrooms work. I know we said we could. I think we can't. Can you stop sending us properties that have less than 3 bedrooms? You're going to have to change your criteria. So you'll simply edit your listing alert and select edit criteria. When you're done, of course, you'll simply hit save. Now, the final comment I want to make is to please, I literally plead with you, update your account settings. Please make sure you have a photo uploaded. If that makes you feel weird, you don't like having your profile photo, I know a lot of people feel that way, upload a photo of your logo. Use a photo of your dog. Do something to differentiate yourself. Not only does your profile get seen on your listing alerts, your photo, your contact information, all of that. Not only does this get seen on your listing alerts, it gets seen on your listings on utahrealestate.com. And the most likely place someone is going to see this is the utahrealestate.com roster of agents. Now, they're probably not getting your business card from you and then going straight to utahrealestate.com and doing a search. It's much more likely they're using Google. But do an experiment. We're done with class now. Do an experiment. Google yourself. You'll probably find this profile. So make sure it's up to date. I literally plead with you. And with that, I would like to just remind you to send your code words and to also, feel free to reach out to the training at utahrealestate.com email address and get your name on that roster as well. If you had any trouble, feel free to email. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email. Anything here at the end? Anything for me?
I have transitioned to my computer. Could you send that link one more time on that chat so I can try to do it on my computer?
Of course I can. Yep, of course I can. 1 second, we'll get that over. Here it comes, everybody. There it is. Thanks, Connor. Other questions or comments? Tana, thank you so much for having us and for monitoring, and we'll get out of your hair.
Well, you are amazing as always.
Thanks.
Like super energetic. I love it.
Thank you.
So this listing alerts is a lot of fun. Can we please fix whoever Miss Lowe is, whose name I have accidentally removed?
So sorry?
Can we please fix Miss Lowe's name?
Yes,
There
Sierra
we
Lowe. It
go.
looks like something's happened in the spreadsheet. No worries.
That was my fault as I was trying to get my thing to load and I clicked on that too many times. So
No, you're good. I just fixed it. Thanks though.
All good.
I'd have felt bad.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it. Have a good Thursday.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We'll see ya.
Have a great Thursday, everyone.
I will stay on just a little bit longer. I won't end it until you guys get a chance to fill it in.
Et voilà.